Alright, so this is the Goldfish. This is my levitite airship, diesel-powered bomber that I showed off in another video. And I really like vehicles like this that just use the levitite and then the propellers to move and turn. So I made a few more of them here that serve different purposes. So here I have the Swordfish and the Narwhal, and these are meant to be fighter ships, so you can use the big cannons, autocannon, to shoot at other ships in the sky. And this one has the cannon as well as bombing capability. So this is a dual purpose, and this is just a fighter. And these work on very similar principles as the Goldfish. You can see the same propeller layout and the levitite. These ones use this redstone levitite from Hot's Aero stuff, just so you can easily turn it on and off. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same build. But for each one, I also wanted to use a different type of power source. So again, the Goldfish is diesel powered, but this one uses solid fuel in these solid burners to power Stirling engines. So we have 3 Stirling engines in total. And these are fed with charcoal from this vault here. And meanwhile, the Narwhal is powered by my signature auto lava farm. So you can see it tucked down here, and then it pumps the lava into these 6 liquid burners with the Stirling engines. And then I also wanted this one to be faster, and so you can see the top propeller is bigger, but it also has this extra propeller on the back to get an extra speed boost. So let's try flying these things. So let's do the Swordfish first. So the way you do it, you first flip the levitite on, and then here's a little trick you can do. So if you click typewriter and then the autocannon, you can control the aircraft while controlling the cannon. So I'll press G to turn on the engines, and then I can fly. And so you can see I can actually control from first person and shoot the autocannon at the same time. So I can fly around third person more easily, and then when I need to shoot, I switch to first person, and I can shoot stuff with my autocannon. Now, the autocannon does have recoil that can kind of mess up your flight, and actually I have the recoil turned down by about half in my config settings because I think the recoil is just a bit too much, but it should still generally work with a higher recoil. It'll just be a little harder to use. And again, this has the exact same controls as the Goldfish. So you have both propellers go forward to go forward, both back to go back, and then to turn, you have them going opposite directions. And the propeller on top just brings you up and down, but the levitite lets you hover at any altitude. But one improvement that this has over the Goldfish is that you can turn off the levitite. And so with the Goldfish, if you went too high, you would just get stuck up there. And that's because there's no air pressure for these propellers to work. And so if you went up above where air pressure drops off, then you can no longer use this propeller to go down. You're just stuck. See, I'm trying to go down, but my Y altitude is just staying the same. And so the way you'd solve that is by hopping off and then turning off the levitite so you can fall. And if you're on the Goldfish and you didn't have this redstone levitite, or if you're just not using this mod in your mod pack, instead you can, if you get stuck, you can try just like place a bunch of blocks on the side of your thing to try and weigh it down to fall down. So these hoppers feed into the solid burners, but then when you turn it off by pressing G, it locks these hoppers so they can't put any more fuel into the burners. However, it's a bit inefficient because it has no way of taking the fuel back out of these, so they'll just burn the extra 8 charcoal. It's a bit of a downside, but you can just have a vault full of free charcoal if you have a farm, so it's not that big a deal. Then I have these threshold switches to show you how full your vault is, so you know when you need to refuel. But if you never want to have to refuel, then you can use this one. So again, this one uses my infinite lava farm design, and so this one never runs out of fuel and you never have to even turn it off. So you can just hop in, press on the lever, and fly. And since this one has a bigger top propeller, it can ascend and descend faster. It is a little bit unstable when you're going up and down, but going forward it's pretty stable. So this is just the normal flight. This makes it easier to turn and stuff, but if you hold F, it activates the big back propeller, so you can go even faster. And then this one is also a bomber. As you can see, it works like that, just like the Goldfish. And I can also get on the autocannon instead of the seat and control it the same way. So lately this has been my favorite type of vehicle, these like levitite airships, or I like to call them levitite submarines. I used to do this underwater robotics competition where you'd build submarines, and they were kind of like this, where they had these like 3 motors to control. So I have a lot of experience designing this type of vehicle. And I think they're really fun. I think they're really versatile. And one thing I love about them that makes them suitable for combat is that, you can just hover in midair. And it's really nice to be able to hover to, precisely bomb or to shoot from the autocannon. It just makes them really easy to control and hard to mess up. Of course, the big downside is that levitite is locked behind the end because you need endstone to make it. So these are kind of a later game vehicle. But I think these are so powerful. Like levitite is just such a useful block that I think this is honestly, this is probably one of the best things you can get out of going to the end. So if you want to build your own fish type vehicles, I'm going to show you the principles that you'll need to make one that works well. So the most important component is going to be balance. Since these hover, you need to make sure it's balanced properly. So you'll want to use your schematic diagram, and you want to try and keep your center of mass right in the middle of your propellers. So the most important one is to keep it right in the middle of your horizontal propellers. So right now it's a bit too high. So I'd probably want to add some weight to the bottom and see, yeah, it's a little bit closer. Needs a little bit more. That's a little better. So you want to get it as close to the center of this motor as you can. And then you also want to place your levitite in such a way that the levitation force is also around the center and lines up with the center of mass. So this is not very good right now. It's a little too far forward. So I'd want to maybe take off this piece. And that's a little bit better. I need my center of mass to be a little bit farther forward. So I'd add some weight on the front here. So you have to kind of adjust things little by little, maybe move where the motors are to get it all to line up better. And then the other thing is that I have this tail on the back of all my fish, like this kind of thing, right? And that keeps it more stable when you're moving forward. However, it has the additional effect of providing some drag when you're going up and down. And so if you imagine this is pulling you up, well, this is dragging behind, and so you kind of get flipped like that. And you see that kind of happens with these. It's a little bit unavoidable since just having this on the back will just have that imbalance. But you can correct for that a bit by having your vertical propeller a little bit farther back of the center of mass. So right now our center of mass is really far backwards. This is in front. And so that'll give us a really bad effect. So you'd want to add a lot of weight on the front to move the center of mass forwards so that the vertical propeller is behind it. There we go, something like this. So you don't want it to be too far behind, just a little bit. It should be almost in line with it. And then the trick I'm using for the controls, since each propeller has 2 different ways that you are able to spin it, you have to be able to go forward and backward, but also turn in each direction. And so you need 4 different controls for each directional gear shift. And so the way you do that is you put a block on each side and then have 2 redstone links on each block. And that lets you get 2 different controls for each one. The other important principle is with the levitite. So what you could do is just put the levitite all in a line like this, but that would introduce some stability issues because it would be able to really easily roll back and forth like this. So instead, you should kind of spread it out to the left and right, something like this. And this way the drag produced by the levitite can kind of reduce that rolling motion. And also you got to make sure to put levitite on the top rather than on the bottom because you don't want your levitation to come up to the top and then flip over your whole craft. So I usually like to make 2 lines on the top, something like this. You can see that in all my designs. So yeah, once you have all those fundamentals down, it's just about connecting everything together and getting the speeds right and finding a good power source. And as I showed, you can have lots of different types of power sources and it'll still work. So yeah, those are my fishies. I hope you enjoyed. And I hope you're able to use these concepts to make your own levitite fishes like this. I think it's a really versatile platform for a lot of different types of vehicles. So I hope people are able to make their own. So if you like this, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. See ya.